Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the City of Monona Landmarks Commission for Wednesday, February 8th. Thor, do you have the roll?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our January 11th meeting?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any changes, any updates? None? All right, hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Aye, fabulous. Okay, great. We don't have any appearances tonight. Under unfinished business, let's move on to item 5A, discussion of possible land acknowledgement prior to the Landmark Commission meetings. I know this was discussed for the few times prior, and Branda, Thor shared with me some of the handout that you shared at the last meeting. And I did watch the recording, and I was aware of some of the conversation. Do you think that we could make a decision tonight and have some action on this item, or what are your thoughts, Branda?
My understanding at the end of the last meeting was that people were interested in seeing what other Dane County communities, municipality/Dane County might have. So that is what I sent to Thor, that got sent around, and I think is part of this packet. And then I think we were looking for input from everybody. So probably we are not ready to make a decision right now.
Okay.
Unless other people have suggestions and I've had time to read through it. But otherwise,
Yeah.
I think we should come back at our next meeting with everybody's input on what kind of language we'd like to see, or that we all might think was appropriate. But
Yeah.
possibly other people have already read through it and have thoughts on it. I don't.
Well, the one thing that struck me was the one from Madison that looked more like a proclamation by the
Yeah.
mayor or the common council.
Yeah, a couple communities had proclamations. They did not seem to have, as far as I could tell, an actual acknowledgement that
Yeah.
was used during meetings, but they did have proclamations. And it's possible. I did not search for other committees within the cities.
No, this was a great sampling.
You really
So
did
to
a
say,
great
there
job.
could be committees out there that have adopted, within the city of Madison, that have adopted some of that language to use as an acknowledgement, but if
Yeah.
it didn't pop up in my search, then I
Because
don't.
I kind of wondered if we'd want to do something like that for Indigenous Peoples Day, which is early October, some kind of proclamation similar along these lines.
That seems really fitting.
Coming from the commission, because of coming from us as the land.
Yeah,
use
we'd be
commission.
kind of the lead agency for the city on this issue.
I really like that. Do you know, Rick, when that date in October is?
Indigenous Peoples Day is October 9th,
Okay.
23.
So I think the proclamation makes sense, that we could bring that in front of the city council meeting of that month. I also, I'm pretty sure that there may already be a proclamation that I can check with Leah.
And I guess we could do this in addition to having something said at each of our commission meetings.
That's my understanding, that we would say something at the start of each meeting, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the
But yeah, and the
original.
proclamation would be absolutely in order.
And it doesn't have to be a lot. Some of these seem fairly simple, but I think it's the intent that seems to be pretty important.
I really like on the bottom in the packet on page 7 of 61, the Monona Land acknowledgement from the ceremony in 2021. I think it's just concise and,
Oh, that's from Monona.
yeah.
That was as cited in the local paper. I could not find it on Monona's website, so I'm just saying that the site reference there is actually the newspaper, not the city.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the time where they started flying the Ho-Chunk flag?
Yes.
Is that right? Which I think we still do.
So Brenda, is your point that this may not be, so I think, are you just saying this is sort of the words of a employee of the newspaper staff?
This is
more so than,
this is a quote.
okay.
This is what the newspaper said the acknowledgement reads. It is not what the city website says because I could not find it
Yeah,
on the city website.
Yeah.
It might be there, I just didn't find it.
yeah. And I don't believe it's necessary that I think it's perfectly okay that we adopt for our own committee whatever language we feel is appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah. And to me, I really like the brevity of it, and I just feel it checks the boxes, but it's not my decision either. So if others have,
I think that if we are looking to write something as a commission, we should consider specifically mentioning the mountains that are landmarked and our intention to continue to preserve and promote that history, because that's the relevant action I think that our commission can take. Aside from just the acknowledgement, I think there should be some motive for us, some mission for us, and I think that that's the obvious one with the mounds under our purview.
okay. So what's your suggestion?
I think a specific reference to the mounds and our goals there, in addition to, I think a brief, as you said, that statement does cover it all, except that it's a little too generic for our commission.
Okay. I apologize for the noise, but I also know that it's sort of part of the rules that we need
Yes.
to leave that door open. Do you feel that a little more work between meetings is needed? Yeah, okay.
I think so, and I think that, yeah, I do. And I'm not sure that the people who are absent have seen it, and I would
Yeah.
like, if we're going to do a statement at the beginning, I think it would be
Okay.
nice if we had.
What's
Time.
the best way to go about getting that work done?
I think anybody who's interested in drafting it could come with some language to the next meeting, some specific suggestions, and see if we can get something passed then.
Okay. So I'm in favor of the language that we already have, but if you feel we should draft something different, I welcome your draft that you would like to put together. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that you think it would be more appropriate that we specifically call out particular landmarks.
I think
Since
that
that is our
I think that it
reason
would
for
be
existing.
to simply acknowledge that there's no action here. This is just an acknowledgement in this statement. There's no promise for action or intent for action. And I think that should be a part of a statement. It's one thing to acknowledge, and it's another thing to say that we intend to take some action on it in some way.
My understanding of the last meeting is that we were to kind of go through all of these and decide which would be best fitting, because I noticed in the minutes, Anne had talked about UW-Madison's example being an appropriate model. And then some of us commented on like the Village of Fauna Keys. And then that's when Brenda had talked about bringing some of the Dane County municipalities in. So I think with some of us missing, it might be appropriate to get their feedback as well on what you brought for Dane County.
What I would suggest is that we have a little subgroup that takes this work between meetings and whoever is interested in being on that subcommittee coordinates a time when you can meet and hash this out. Or we may be here for a very long time if we try to make decisions by committee. Would that be an acceptable next step?
Yes, except I would be interested, and I know I have 0 time
Okay.
to add in any meetings.
Okay.
I'm only here half-time right now in town, so
Yeah.
so I cannot add another meeting in, I'm positive.
So, is there anyone else who would be willing to meet and be part of that team that drafts the land acknowledgement?
I'll do it.
Okay, Rick, thank you.
So
What's
we're
the-
we're trying to get something to say before our meeting. Okay, and we like the model here, except we want to add some specific language about Native American burial mounds. So,
Brenda, could you restate what your,
That would be
Sure.
my preference. That would be my preference. Obviously, we are a group and doesn't have to be what I
Okay.
want here. But it would be my preference to include a specific reason or intention that we have when we make this statement,
something unique to our mission.
so that we're not just putting a generic statement out that actually has no true meaning, that we have something that, like, why are we doing this? So-
Yeah.
I like that.
So we're not asking for a lot of additional information, just
Right.
something that addresses something specific to the commission's overview, purview. Okay. I don't think that'll take a lot. So you want me to draft something on my own or with Branda? You say you don't have time for another meeting. Should I
I
just
really
try
don't. If you want to just draft something, that would be
Okay.
great.
and bring it to or give it to Thar before our next meeting?
Or
Okay.
perhaps there's another commission member that'd be interested? Otherwise, Rick, I'm more than confident in your ability.
Okay.
Sometimes people just like to work with others, yeah. That would be fantastic, Rick, thank you. I've always appreciated your willingness to put in a lot of work between meetings. It's really wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome. I did also like what Ann said about trying to use language, Ho-Chunk language if possible, if there is something specific for a mound. that we
That's
shouldn't
in
be-
here, actually. The city of Monona has it on their website, that mounds, on our own website, we have a page on the mounds, and it says that the word is Moshok.
Yeah.
Moshok.
Yeah.
And that, I think you're right, we should be referring to that.
Yeah,
in
we
our-
shouldn't be afraid of it.
We shouldn't be, we should be using Moshok instead of mound when we refer to
Yeah,
the mounds here.
well, certainly as we open up the meeting.
Right.
Okay. So I don't think that'll take a lot.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item, item 5B, discussion and possible action regarding 2023 commission work plan. I'm just going to pull that up.
I can pull it up for the projector.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think your point about Indigenous Peoples' Day in October could be something that maybe doesn't have to be part of the work plan, but we do have Preservation Month as one of our big months, but because of the mounds, we could do something in October as well. I think we have walking tours, et cetera, of the mounds, or they're part of our walking tours, if we wanted to promote that. I don't know that that has to be on here, but
That is really distracting, isn't it? It's just really difficult.
I wonder if it'd be okay to close the door if we have a
I-
disturbance outside.
I think
No.
that would be wonderful.
it does not. I
We
think the
can't
doors
close
have to stay open, don't they? That is the. I've had many meetings here before
Something
where
about
the doors
open
are
meetings.
open and the kids are happy.
Open meetings. I'm not
Open
sure.
meeting law.
We close the door when we're
I know. I know we do.
Oh, we're not
Um,
supposed to.
Could, perhaps what we could do is,
Maybe crack it.
yeah, that would be great. It's, yeah, let's do that.
Get 90% there. or-
Yeah, yep.
98.
Yeah. Ah. Thank you, Thor. All right. So Thor, I'm not finding like a working document. I'm finding the document that's in the packet. But like, you know how we run sustainability committee, it's just so nice to have a working document that we can keep updated. This is fine for tonight, but maybe we'd also want to have a document that we could add notes to. Unless you've got, unless you do have a working document, a copy that can be updated.
I don't at the moment.
Okay.
Do you
Yeah.
mean like if this is a Word file, to have a Word document? rather
Like
than
a shared
PDF?
document that we can be adding notes,
Oh, okay.
like on this date, this is what we discussed, and these are the
Okay.
next steps, and this is the status. Is it in progress? Is it finished? Is it, you know,
How do you
is
do
it
that?
started?
How do you do that with sustainability?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time.
You mentioned sustainability does it that way?
Yes.
How
yeah.
do you do that? What do you have what kind of software do you use? to do it? I'm just going to ask you.
Thor and I just have a Google spreadsheet that we
Oh, okay.
share.
All right.
Yeah. So you know what? Sorry, I'm more frustrated than I realize. I'm going to ask Rebecca if she can just do something.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I know there was that conflict outside of this room.
So you use Google Docs, or did you say they use Google Docs? Is that what I heard?
Google spreadsheet, yeah, I guess that's a good.
Does everybody know how to do that and everything?
I do.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah. Just want to make sure. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many ways people can communicate these days, and not everybody knows all the methods.
All right. So if I get in trouble for closing the door. All right. So I'm sorry. So to answer your question, for another committee that Thor and I work on, he and I just have a shared spreadsheet that we can
Okay.
keep updated. And it's just so helpful to
Perfect.
just actually go right in and say, you know, on this date, this is what we talked about. This is the status. These are the tasks that so-and-so is working on and the deadlines and due dates. And we'll get that. All right. So as far as the static document we have in front of us, we've got some timelines starting in May. And we've got some folks assigned to the work. Thor, how would you like to take this? Do you want to go top, bottom, or do you want to go based on timeline?
Yeah, so at the previous meeting, we had reviewed the previous work plan and made edits to just get it updated for the current year. So I think we don't necessarily have to go through line by line. We can, unless people have edits, they after the review, I think we can just go on to a motion to approve the work plan. Or a motion to approve it with amendments.
As far as these first three by May 23, I don't think we're going to be able to clean and replace the local landmark markers by that time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I understand. I don't know that, so you're asking just to approve the work plan, whereas I'm asking for an update on what's been done, like what work is in progress and what needs to be done. Maybe it's the same thing? I don't know.
So the previous work plan was approved by the commission to guide the work for the upcoming year. The last meeting we went through to identify what had already been done in 2022 and remove those items, and then updated the timeline to reflect when we want to get items done in 2023. So if there are other work items that the commission wants to add to the work plan, we can make edits. But I think this is the result of a year and a half of discussions about priorities. So we can update the timeline. We don't necessarily have to stick to this timeline, but this is just a guide that we can refer to throughout the year to keep us on track.
But
And we can improve it potentially and turn it into a working document where we can take notes as well. But this could be the work plan that is approved by the commission that we refer to.
Rick, I think your point is you think local landmark markers should be moved to a medium-term project, as we are not going to have that ready by May.
definitely not.
So there's no point to, so if we could move that, that would be
I wonder if saying ongoing as well.
ongoing, right?
And then I guess I'm wondering to what extent with the landing page for National Register on Nominations, is that on track? Are we going to be able to put something together by then?
Yeah, I think we can have something ready by May, certainly.
Okay.
And I know that is on me to create that. And I haven't had the time to work on that yet. But over the next 2 months, I think we can have something prepared.
So we need to approve this, or that is we have not yet approved this as the working plan for this year.
Right, so this is an amendment from the previously approved working plan. I made the corrections that the commission requested at last month's meeting.
Okay, well, I mean, when it comes to the pagoda, I think we really need to redraft that.
Okay, so how about this? Will someone call for a motion for approval in a second? Once that's up, we'll call for amendments. We'll discuss the amendments and then we'll ultimately vote on approving this plan. That sound good?
Yes.
All
Sounds
right.
like a plan.
So is there a motion to approve this work plan for 2023?
I'll move.
And a second?
Second.
Excellent. Now we can talk about, it is
Amending.
confusing. It's confusing. Now we can talk
Okay.
about changes to it. Yeah.
Okay,
right.
let's take it in order.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Sounds like with the national webpage, we're on track.
Mm-hmm.
Local landmark markers, I think we need to change the timeline on that.
Mm-hmm. What do you propose?
I would say May 2024.
Okay.
Now, do we take each amendment in kind?
I think we can be a little more casual on that, yeah. But technically, yeah.
All right. So with the Springhaven Pagoda, I don't think we need to go to 2024 capital budget. We have,
So the commission map is on track for
Oh.
2023?
I don't
Under
know.
short term?
I don't know.
If work does continue into 2024, it might require
Yeah.
a new capital budget
Okay.
request
And
For the
then
map you're talking about?
for the pagoda.
Well, you're talking about the map, right?
I'm talking about item number 3, under short-term projects, landmark commission map.
And is that on track?
Is that on track? I believe it is. There's no changes needed for that, right? I mean, that was already approved at the last meeting.
Well, it's on the agenda today.
Okay, so are we taking this out of order? Is it without?
This is just a work plan. We aren't committing to this. This is just a document for us to follow throughout the year, right? So we can amend it as we go. This is.
Well, that's
Yes.
what we're trying to do.
Right. But I mean, throughout the year, it can be amended as well.
Right.
We're not held
I
to-
guess, and I think I speak for everyone, right? I just want to get work done rather than always talking about what work we're going to do. So, at some point, we need to make a plan and then stick to it. And that starts with reasonable timelines and just commitments and assignments and checking in on people's work and what's been done. I guess what I'm wondering is, without going through it feels to me like many lines in this plan refer to later pages of the packet, and we haven't reviewed those later pages of the packet, so we can't really know whether we can approve this grand, matrix. Am I misunderstanding something, or am I alone? If I am, please just let me know if I'm not.
It sounds like you just don't want timelines in this.
No, I do. I definitely want timelines. I just want them to be timelines we all agree to and work to keep. So I don't know if we have enough information to set them at this point.
Are you asking that because some of the items on this work plan are listed later in the agenda?
Correct. And we haven't
Will
talked
those
about those.
impact this document?
Right.
That's what you're asking.
Like once we move through the packet, we're going to come back here and undo everything that we just are about to talk about now, right?
But
so
you were
could we
just-
take it out of order.
But we discussed a number of these things throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever, while I've been on the commission, we haven't gone back and updated this, if that makes sense. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
I think we do this annually. Is that
Right.
fair?
Okay.
Or the intent, I think, is?
Right.
Yep, I think the intent is would be the projects that we have agreed on that we're working on this year, general timelines, general descriptions of the work. So I think as conversations that we have at meetings won't necessarily impact the work plan, this version of the work plan
Okay.
document.
Okay. So am I perhaps just, Thor, then maybe I'm just maybe confusing it a little bit with a different procedure that you and I have taken with a different committee?
Yeah, I think this is not meant to be as much a project management tool
Okay.
as just
Okay.
the guiding document for.
Got it. So it's okay that this is very high level. It
Yes.
doesn't have to have, okay.
But I think you make a valid point. If someone knows something at the bottom of the agenda that might affect this, I'm guessing they would speak up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Thor, do you feel, I guess then the question goes, as far as things that are assigned to city staff, Thor, my assumption is that since you put together the document, you're okay with anything assigned to city staff?
Yep.
For
Some of
the-
these are ongoing that I'm
Yes.
continuing on from Doug, and some of them are new.
Yes.
And the timelines are reasonable.
Yeah. For the second item on the list, which is assigned to the volunteer group, it sounds like there are still some outstanding questions on that. And for a timeline of May 2023, Thor, were you thinking that that would be, what does that timeline signify for you?
I think it would be a decision is made by then.
Okay.
Made by,
The decision on whether we hire it,
Plan.
or we do it ourselves, or we replace the landmark plaques
Yes.
altogether. Okay. So by then, we want to have a decision. All right. And that's the description. Do we clean or replace? And then under medium term for Springhaven and Pagoda, we just want to be able to understand the costs sometime before September.
Correct, because then we would need to know if we need to go to capital budget.
I don't mean to go backwards, but the marker one,
Yeah.
should we add verbiage that says decision made by? Because if you read this and don't know
Sure.
this discussion took place, this would indicate that we'd have them cleaned and replaced by May 23rd.
I
Or
would
2023.
absolutely agree with you.
Okay.
Yes. Decision to clean or replace. Yes, thank you.
So keep the timeline as May 2023.
But just add the word
Add
decisions to
decision.
decision. And then also, in that same vein, on the very first line, create a landing page. Let's start with a verb on all of those. So creating a landing page, decide on what we're going to do for the landmarks, markers, the commission map, what is the action there? Is it to have the map created, Thor?
The map is mostly created now.
Okay.
It's nearly finalized. It's on the agenda tonight for another, not necessarily
Proofread.
review, but proofread. Yep.
Mhm.
So the decision, or the action there would be to publicize it, share it. It's going to be a trifold pamphlet.
Let's do that. Let's update the description column then with, publicize or whatever the action word is. And then for medium term, Springhaven Pagoda, we just want to understand those costs. That's fabulous. For the long term projects, you want to create a web page. Also within May 2023. So that's going to take some work. Rick, I see your name on there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that timeline?
I definitely can get some of them done.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'd maybe commit to is getting a handful, 3, 4 of them in place.
Okay.
And then we can add to it
Okay.
from there. And I'm just envisioning a paragraph, really,
Mm-hmm.
an introductory paragraph about the history of the marker, of the building.
So,
I don't see it as a walking tour per se, but I do see it as kind of a website that gives you, that orients you to the history of the building.
The
Yeah.
website would potentially become a walk-around tour.
It could be,
right?
it could be used that way.
Would it be okay if I volunteered to be added to that group?
thank you very much. So we've got then the scope of the task is to create a web page or to add to an existing web page.
Yeah.
Do you know which it is?
No, I have no idea.
All
I
right.
imagine that there
I think we need
isn't
a new web-
anything there
yeah,
right now.
we'll need to create one.
It's
So
more
we're going to
likely.
create a web page. So why don't we add the word create? And then ideally, but not required, ideally with a story about each. And to explore the possibility of blueprints. Wow. Okay. So there's some work there. And we're looking, it's February now, March, April, May, 3 months. What are you feeling now that you've got the two of you on this thing? It might catch fire. I don't know.
Do you know how to create a webpage?
I think we can work
No.
with Leah. We'll work with the
Oh, okay.
city.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Rick,
No, I would just be providing the text, the
Got it,
content.
okay.
In a Microsoft Word document, that'd be
Yeah.
perfectly
Okay.
adequate. Yep.
So let's see, photographs. Do we need photographs? I
I
guess.
have some photographs of ones in Crossroads.
You do? Color, slides, color.
I think they're black and white.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Would that be all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fantastic. So yeah, I mean, and you're absolutely right, Rick. You just provide the text and, the digital images, and I think between Thor and others over at the city, they can post that up on the website. That'd be
Great.
fantastic.
Mhm.
I also wonder, is there any interest in maybe just how, letting people know that it's up there? Once you put all the work into it, perhaps like some promotion. And is there any sort of significance about that people might want to know? I don't know. Maybe we add to it some suggestions for promoting this style of architecture and a PSA and BMO or two.
Yeah,
Who knows? Yeah.
that'd be all right.
Okay.
So someone would schedule something with Will?
Uh-huh. Yep. Can do that.
And then May is Preservation Month, and in the past, the city does have a kind of a resolution that's used the last couple of years. But maybe we could mention the webpage in there.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll do a resolution. I will ask for a copy of past resolutions. And so that's the second ask for past resolutions that I'll do. And then just, I think whenever you can get together to put together the text is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Is there anything more to be said about this particular item? No? Let's go on to the next one, National Register Outreach. We build on the momentum of the CLG grant funding to encourage other eligible properties. And of course, we've got the Frostwoods event, which I'm so happy to see all the work that's been done on that. It's just fantastic. 22nd of February, the 22nd of March. I mentioned something at the City Council meeting. This is really nice that we're doing that. And thank you very much to Rebecca and Branda for all the work that you've done with Thor. Is there anything, I mean, we don't have to discuss it right now. We'll do that later in the agenda. But as far as this particular line on the work plan, I don't believe there's anything more to say, correct?
No, that's it.
Great.
That's a big deal right there.
It is, it's huge. And then Historic Preservation Month.
Well, I think that's contingent on whether or not we have National Register plaques or not. And I think that was contingent on funding. And we haven't figured out if there's funding for that.
It's a little bit, but
But the item can
but-
stay on the plan
Yeah.
as it is.
So what is the action? What are we doing here? Are we small group planning events and materials? So is the word plan? Plan events? Okay.
Well, the events were going to be those plaque dedications, I thought.
But the item can stay on this work plan as is, right?
I'm not
I know it seems to
is-
indicate a lot of different possible events, but
what-
I don't think there's time.
I don't
to do that.
understand the scope of this task.
Okay, well, my understanding is it's connected to National Register plaques. I don't know anything else that it would involve.
I think it just gives us the purview to do some planning in advance of Historic Preservation Month. And that can be a standing agenda item between now and May, and we can figure out the details as we go on.
So there are 2 more meetings between now and May.
And it is on the agenda tonight.
Okay. So why don't we come back to it? And maybe this goes back to what I was saying before, like I feel like we should just skip over this and come back to it at the end of the meeting. But
It's almost like we should have done this at the end.
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Well, no, it's like we should have done this in December of last year. It's a plan for this year. It's not a diagram. It's not an actual.
Right,
It's,
but
it's not supposed to reflect what we've already done. It's just supposed to give us agenda items
I
for
feel-
meetings.
Maybe this is semantics, but I feel like this is sort of like a list of ideas without a plan. And I would like to make a plan, which means we have deadlines and,
But each of these items is an item on the agenda to discuss
Okay.
and make plans, right? The point of this is this allows us to be on the agenda for meetings.
I think more or less.
Because if it's on the work plan, we can always discuss it. It's not a new, we,
okay. I suppose that's one way to look at it, yeah. Okay, so since we're at the bottom of the document, let's just talk about the one more thing and then move on. So the future CLG grant opportunities, work with city staff, appropriate committees to evaluate options and priorities. I think that's very clear. We just need someone assigned to it. Thor, is that something that I can take on?
You know, I'm not sure about the details of the application.
Okay.
Something that I would need to coordinate with Doug about
Okay.
what all goes into that.
I just realizing my name's not on this list, and that's not very nice of me to not do my fair share.
Well,
So if you need a person, you can put my name on that.
So there are two components, right? The letter of intent and the actual application.
Right, this is something staff needs to do. They,
But it has to
staff
be,
has
I
always filled out
Yeah.
we sign it off, right?
don't know what you mean.
I think Doug has always brought that to us, the letter of intent, so that we could approve it.
That's
What
fine
is
if that's the way you want to do it.
application?
But I think
I'm
the
maybe I'm
idea,
misremembering.
the idea here was to apply for a grant to nominate the Frostwoods Historic District, correct?
Right.
So,
But the application process has usually been done by Doug or
Yeah.
somebody. Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
city staff would handle that. I
Yeah.
don't think that would be you two.
Okay.
Because it actually has to come from the council, the letter of intent.
Okay.
It has to be city approval.
All right. Fantastic. So we are ready to, you know what, I'm just going to say that let's just table a decision on this. Let's go back to this
We
document.
have a motion with a
I
second right
know.
now to approve, so I think we first need to vote on that.
Okay, so there were some amendments that were suggested, and
Mhm.
Thor, I think you wrote them down, just
Yep.
adding some descriptive language. All in favor of the amendments that were proposed? Shall we take a vote?
I guess my only question is, are we going to go back to this document after we talk about some of these items? Because they may change. We didn't talk about Springhaven Pagoda because it's on the agenda for later. So when we approve this document, it could be out of date by the time we finish.
Finish the meeting tonight.
Yeah.
I know, I agree. So,
That's why you were trying to
I would-
table it for a minute.
correct.
Okay. And I'm okay with tabling it because we can bring it back at the end of the
Can't table
meeting.
it because there's a motion.
There's a motion on the table.
Oh, gosh.
And I apologize, I do have to leave, but my take on this is it's a work plan. It's not set in stone. And it could be approved or it
Okay.
could be tabled again. It could be not tabled, it could be, we could say we want to see the amendments and bring it up at the next meeting and approve it there. I think it's an outline for our work. I don't see it as this is exactly what we're doing. So
okay, okay.
Well-
I guess maybe it's just the word plan that I'm
The only
used to using in a different way.
The only qualm I have about that is that this is a guide that I think people are going to rely on for figuring out where we are, what we're doing. It's not just a paper exercise.
Okay, how about this? Let's just, I don't think it's necessary to get too wrapped up in Robert's Rules of Order. I would like to circle back at the end of the meeting and see if there's anything that is still, if anything changes drastically. I think the word plan is maybe just something that I define differently, and I'm willing to just sort of, let that go. And if this is just a list of, the scope in general, very broad general terms, that's totally fine. It's just when you put timelines and assignments on things, it feels a little more that we're making some commitments. So, Thor, if you don't mind, if we could just buzz through the other parts of the agenda, and then let's just come back here to see if there's anything that really needs to be changed drastically beyond the changes in the description. That'd be right? All right. So I'm going to move on to page 13, and we are then on discussion of landmark site marker cleaning, number 5C.
Yep.
An old document that Rick obtained some time ago.
So I do have some information to share about
Mhm.
for this item. So I did confirm with the finance director that we have about $1,600 available from the book sales, and that can be spent on anything. So we can use it to for marker cleaning or replacement. At the previous meeting, the commission requested that I reach out for bids for replacement of the markers. And I've heard from two contractors currently that were recommended on the WHS website. One of them was for a standard 16 by 24 plaque, $2,200. And the other was $3,020. So
These are not that big.
Yeah.
are they standard 16 by 20?
They're
They
18
fit on a
by,
boulder.
I measured it
16 by
18 by
20.
15.
18 by 15? Okay.
But I don't know that a few inches would significantly change
Well, they're
the
carved
price.
into the stone.
Oh, I mean, we're
Sorry, I
talking
was
like
going somewhere else.
3,000, I don't think,
Yeah.
we're talking
That's
budget some
outrageous,
big money here,
3,000.
so, anyway, Thor, what were you saying?
Yep. So, yeah, the size difference might affect things if they're 18 by 15. The other option is we could apply for state historical markers, like we did for Monona Mound. That's a $750 fee plus a $250 application fee. Those are 16 by 24. So if the size difference, they also have a kind of a semicircle detail at the top, so they're not a perfect rectangle. So if some of the existing markers are set in stone, it might require a little additional stone work to get them mounted, which might be an additional cost.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Thor, you started with 60, some book sale, 1,600.
$1,600
Is that for our commission to spend?
Yes,
Or for the
yep.
city to, okay,
for the commission. Mhm.
thank you.
And if I remember correctly, the DIY approach just is off the table.
Yeah.
Correct?
That didn't work.
Okay.
But I think the beauty of going with Craig Deller is that he will teach us how to do this with one marker, such that we should be able to do it with volunteer labor going
But I-
forward.
Okay, so what's the difference between the DIY approach and the Craig Deller approach?
Magic.
But I thought that he was going to teach us how to DIY.
Well, DIY. I guess I'll say what DIY meant with me was going to wiki on
Oh,
and, you know,
I'm
using carbonate of soda and hot water and flour, and it
Okay.
didn't work.
I was
Craig has got a
simply-
lot of chemistry that he
Okay.
can do. So
Okay.
I don't think of that as DIY. I think
Got
of
it.
that as hiring a professional conservator.
I was just thinking if I'm going to physically be touching it with, if I'm going to be cleaning it.
With volunteer help.
Whether
Oh.
I've been instructed on how to do it or whether I've figured out how to do it on myself.
Right.
If I'm
right.
going to do it, that's what I mean by DIY, as opposed to hiring someone to do everything.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of a hybrid, is maybe
Right.
what we're
Right.
talking
Okay.
about. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't
No,
know
that's
what
okay.
you meant by
That's
that.
okay. So it would work. So volunteers, we can have
I believe so.
non-professional people
Yeah.
cleaning the markers.
And if we're lucky, we'll be able to keep this on the rock without separating it, which, if we have to separate it and reinstall it, could make a very difficult operation. And I know Doug went through a lot of work to find a stone for that Monona Mound marker, and that cost a lot of money.
Can I ask you
Over and above the marker itself.
Yeah.
a question about the price? Is that an installation price or just the plaque price?
Just for the plaque.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy expensive.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got some bids too I could hand out if you want.
So we've got $450. So here are the options that I'm seeing. We've got up to $2,000 per plaque to have it professionally cleaned. Is that the upper reach, Thor? Is that what I'm hearing?
For the cleaning?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Craig Deller's bid was $450.
So that's the lower end.
Yeah.
So to have it professionally cleaned by someone else, they do the whole thing?
Yeah, I need to get a quote for that
Okay.
as well.
Okay. So at the lower end, though, we've got a person who has a one-time expense of $450. He teaches a group of volunteers how to do it, and we go do the rest for essentially nothing. No extra cost, correct?
Unless you have to buy chemicals, I suppose, or something like that, right? Yeah.
Buy some
minimal.
gloves,
Yep.
protect our manicures, you know, yeah, I know how you guys are sensitive about that. So, I mean, is there a reason why we cannot move forward with this?
My only holdup is we probably should do our due diligence and get at least one more quote. Especially considering Mr. Deller is a personal friend of a commission member.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful to just, to be
Well-
totally above board,
Sure.
get one more quote, right? Just to
Sure.
make sure that $450 is reasonable for cleaning work.
What I just handed out was either a refinishing or a new plaque. So the refinishing option with Erie Landmark would be over, it would involve sandblasting, which I don't think we generally do. But it would also mean removing it from the stone. It would involve shipping.
$1,600 for one. That's just one. That's not all of them.
Exactly.
Well, 16 for a new one. Oh, no,
No,
16
it's-
for,
No, it's
yeah,
just-
16 for sandblasting
Yep.
and shipping. And there was an additional cost of $200 for a new metal photo instead of reusing whatever is there now, which we may want to do. Because what's there now, it might be better to look at that as an option.
So these scopes are a little different. Is that
These
correct?
are a little different.
Is that an issue with having a, because then we can just select this, to your point, and move on,
Yeah. I
if
just,
everyone agrees to it.
I mean, I don't see anything coming in lower than $450. And, I mean, everybody wants their taxes to stay low. I mean, we're here to save money, right?
Is this a comparable
Is that,
to you, Thor? I mean, can we use this as your second estimate?
I would feel
But
better
you
if it
would-
came from, if the bid was from the city. It's like,
Oh, I see what you're
requested
saying.
by the city.
Yep, okay, got it.
oh, so you,
Tell him to send this to Thor.
Well,
Well,
I see what you mean. Yeah, okay.
or do you have to officially
Yeah,
make
not
a
have,
public bid?
yeah, to have the
think-
city's name on it and not-
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Like this one says city of Monroe, I think. I don't know.
so I guess you might want to just call Erie Landmark and get this
Yes,
directly
I
from
think
them.
Peckman Memorials does cleaning services as well.
So have we left it that, I think what I'm hearing the action is that Thor has an action item that you need to make some, you're making phone calls? Is that what I'm hearing, or collecting bids?
I think, yeah, I think we
Okay.
should get 2 or 3 bids
Okay.
for
But that also.
this kind of chemical cleaning,
Okay.
not sandblasting, but the type of cleaning that Mr. Deller has proposed, and we can select the lowest bidder from there.
Okay, Thor, are you allowed to call people and ask for bids, or do you have to make a public notice that says, you know what I'm saying?
It depends on the dollar amount.
Okay,
This is
all right.
below the threshold.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, it gets a little, yeah. Okay. And regarding Mr. Deller's estimate, has this been tested? Is he guaranteeing that this will work? Because I'm guessing that this guy, this person, $1,500, $1,600, that's, yeah, at the end of the day, it'll work. That's kind of the,
I'm not sure what you mean in terms of guarantee.
Yeah.
I mean, will they stand behind their work? I mean, I don't know. How does that get expressed
I
in
guess
any
I'm-
bid?
I'm just wondering if it's a bid, I guess the assumption is, and it will work, like what he is proposing.
I think if the bid were accepted, we'd have a contract for him to do the work, which would state that the work,
Works.
yeah, basically, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Okay,
I don't know if guarantee is.
Yeah, maybe that's where you put in some kind of
We
guarantee.
want it to work,
right.
yeah.
It's not just like, yeah, I can give it a shot for $450.
No.
No,
Do you-
okay.
Looks like he's
Do you-
got
yeah.
some,
Yeah.
experience. Thank you
Okay.
for doing
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Thor, do you have what you need on that one?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Sorry for any confusion. New business, review of commission work on Spring Haven Pagoda. Thor, I know that you had some updates you wanted to share with that.
Yeah, so my goal with this item is not necessarily to select a path forward, but considering the general uncertainty around the timeline and history of our conversations with the pagoda, I've prepared a memo and some supporting documents that just summarize what's happened since 2016. So maybe it'd be helpful if we just go through these items.
Thank you.
So in November of 2016, the Commission approved the Pagoda Historic Preservation Plan. That was a recommendation, recommended course of action from Charlie Quigliana, who worked with the Commission at the time to just create some recommendations for the pagoda. At that time, the pagoda was deemed to be in a good enough shape that only the roof needed to be replaced. So the Commission started exploring options for roof replacement. A laser scan was performed by MATC after professional bids were too expensive in the spring of 2017, and I think one of Charlie's students attempted to put together a rendering from the laser scan of the original roof, but it was unsuccessful. And at that time, the rendering was needed to move forward with an RFP to replace the roof. And because the laser scan was unsuccessful, that RFP kind of fell off the table. And then a new RFP was created to hire an architect to draw the roof. And at the time, the City Council had approved $10,000 for that, and the Commission just stalled on that essentially. And the main holdup was a question over whether historic or modern concrete should be used, and the decision was never made. So then it kicked up again in 2020 in conjunction with the renovation of Stonebridge Park. So the Commission had Patrick Egan draft some RFP materials that included renderings of the roof and the missing finial piece. The Commission approved those materials in November 2022 and then submitted the RFP in February of 2021. 3 bids were received from Stats, which was about 3 times as much as any other bid, from Hamburg for about $45,000, and then we selected Daniels, which was the lowest bidder, and they were also working on the park at the time. So they were selected for the contract and began work. After excavating around the pagoda, the Commission took a trip out to Stonebridge Park in August of 2021 with Patrick Egan, and there was some new damage that was discovered at the time, and Mr. Egan felt that it was too unstable to continue with the work, and the Commission moved to put the project on hold and issued a formal recommendation to City Council to terminate the contract to rehabilitate the pagoda. And City Council approved that termination of the contract in September of 2021. And the Commission then considered possible removal of the pagoda in September of 2021 later on. But that conversation was tabled in favor of getting a second opinion. 2 other opinions were received from CMR, who was not quite comfortable issuing an opinion on the structural elements, but did agree that the roof that needed some concrete repair. And then Mr. Kurt Strauss was also hired to issue a second opinion, and he felt that the pagoda was in a much better condition than Patrick Egan thought, and thought that it was repairable. He noted roof damage at the edges and previous repairs that have not lasted. He noted that that could be repaired with either just concrete molding with an epoxy finish, or a carbon fiber strip and then an epoxy finish. That would be more visibly different than the rest of the concrete and would have to be painted gray, but would help shed water better. Mr. Strauss offered a few suggested contractors, and ultimately the commission took that opinion and denied the demolition of the pagoda, and that is where we stopped. So we have $65,000 was approved in the capital budget in November of 2021. That has carried over. We have $63,500 available for the pagoda repair. $1,500 was spent for Kurt Strauss's report. So all those materials are in the packet. We can get into some more of those details if we want. Otherwise, that's the timeline. I just wanted us to all come to consensus of what has happened, so we know exactly where we are.
I know that you and Doug have put a lot of work into this.
$1,500 to Kurt? We paid Kurt Strauss $1,500?
First I've heard of that. I didn't know we paid
I
it.
did not know we paid Kurt Strauss.
I assumed he got paid.
Yeah.
I didn't know
He did a
that.
report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense now.
I mean, yes, it makes sense that we would pay him.
Yeah.
I just did not know.
No,
we
that's
paid
the
him.
first I heard that we did that.
I did not know we hired him to do it. I thought that Doug was just getting his opinion.
Yeah, this is what Mark, the city finance director, told me.
Makes sense.
Okay.
I believe it.
All right. So that was a fantastic recap. This
And
is a lot of time has gone into this.
we've lost the recording.
I have to say that we've been talking about the pagoda since I started here, and it was talked about for years
Oh,
before.
Should I knock on the door?
Yeah.
That the pagoda has been kicking around for a long time.
So we want to decide what repairs we want to do. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think next steps would be come to a general consensus of, the scope of the work, and then we take that to contractors and find an interested contractor.
You're suggesting put it up for bid again, basically? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
To
once we've
contractors.
identified a better scope of work. Do we want, for instance, the epoxy repair, or do you want the carbon fiber repair with the epoxy, or do potentially a whole roof replacement? I think after Kurt Strauss's opinion, that might probably not necessary.
The bid or the request could ask for a price for all three so that we could understand. Because the carbon might be the best solution, but it might cost 6 times more than we can afford.
Yeah, Kurt offered in his own estimate of the costs.
Yep.
So the carbon fiber estimate was 40 to 50,000. So potentially within budget. This was a year ago, and that's just his estimate. Without the carbon fiber, just concrete repair with epoxy, 25 to 35,000.
So 25 to 30,000 for epoxy, the carbon fiber, maybe all we've got in our budget, 50,000 plus. Okay. So, Thor, what do you recommend? Putting it out to bid again is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, but I would need to know, what work we want to put out for bid.
Well, do we need someone like Kurt to design this project? I mean, we got an opinion for $1,500, but we didn't actually get someone to design fully one of these options. Does that make sense? I don't think we have enough information to go out to bid with at this point. We have a paragraph saying this is what we'd like to do for $50,000. That doesn't sound like enough. The specs aren't there.
I don't think we were all in agreement on his recommendations.
No, I'm not saying we were, but I'm just saying if we were to go to bid for one of these options,
I hear what you're
it
saying.
has to be more
just
fully delineated.
Yeah. More of just like this.
You know, the contractor has to know more than just this to be able to put together an effective bid.
Or design one and have an alternate design for our second price. Yeah. I think part of our concern is we don't know. While those estimates might be helpful, a lot's changed in the construction world in the last year in terms of pricing. And so
So we could,
having more options, I think, would be,
have someone design option A and option B,
yeah.
and then we'd be able to get a refined bid.
I don't think the designs are too greatly different, is what I'm trying to say, you know what I mean?
But it could be a single project to
Yes.
put those two together.
Yes, I think. And Kurt would, do we have to put that out for bid? Or is there what is the dollar amount that doesn't require a bid, do you know?
That I would have to
Ask.
confirm with the finance director.
But did
Could
we-
I ask, is the original RFP materials that Patrick Egan developed, would those be relevant still? Yes, they are in there. They should be right after the historic preservation plan materials.
Well, wasn't that to replace the roof?
Yeah, I think that's what I was asking.
That's
I think
different
that's
than
just the
what we're,
roof
Right, okay.
replacement.
so I think I'd rather be able to preserve what historic fabric there is on the roof rather than replace it. I mean, if either of these proposals by Kurt is feasible, I think it would be preferable.
are we allowed to amend his contract to do the design work? Do you know what I mean? Like amend an existing
Kurt's
agreement? Or is it-
contract?
Yeah, it's probably closed. But, I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to look at the details there.
I'm just trying to think of a way to
Makes it a little easier.
expedite the process.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, there's just so much that has gone on for 20 years, you know.
It does go back that far, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I
Damn.
was just reading for 20 years.
But to
yeah.
Rebecca's point, we should probably, let's say, that's a concept we just threw out, right? The two options. We should probably, as a group, agree that we could live with those two options, right? Before we go design something.
Right.
So the two options being the carbon fiber or the epoxy. Is that what I remember hearing?
Yep.
Okay. Do we know the pros and cons of each?
So from Kurt's report, I would say the pro of the concrete molding with the epoxy would be that it's cheaper
Right.
and a little simpler.
Yeah.
And the con would be it's less waterproof than the epoxy or the carbon fiber addition to that. And the
Yeah.
con of the carbon fiber is that it would add kind of a layer of material that goes up onto the roof more. That would be visible and would have to be painted gray with some texture. So it might be, you'd be able to distinguish that carbon fiber stripping likely more so than the simpler options.
So the epoxy would be less expensive, less visible. It would blend in visually. And both options would be just as adequate in terms of getting the job done.
Can I just
Sure.
stop you for a minute?
Sure.
These are landmarks, and landmarks have standards when you are repairing or replacing or whatever. When you're repairing concrete from over 100 years ago, you can't just use today's methods.
Okay.
And so the methods that they are proposing are today's methods. And you are going to definitely notice them
Okay.
because it is not the same materials that were used over 100 years ago.
Okay.
I think that's some of the discussions that we were having is,
You can't use modern methods?
Well, I think
you can't, I mean, you have to use, you want to use it there are people that specialize in concrete repair from over 100 years ago,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to be able to replicate the process they used here.
Right, but you don't want to use Portland cement on 100-year-old concrete.
Do
It's
you
not
feel-
going to work.
Do you feel that we've called in the right people who know, I mean, do you feel?
Oh,
like-
for sure
Oh,
we
okay.
have. This whole
Okay.
time we have been.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, I don't think Patrick Egan's two solutions were the only solutions.
Okay. What are you thinking?
I really appreciate your expertise. I mean,
I-
you're a volunteer
Teresa, I'm
on
just
this
going to be
community
honest.
because
As
you're-
I've been on this committee for this long,
Yeah.
I've been on this committee and for this whole process, and we had a decision made, and then we decided not to do it. And I've been through this so many times
Yeah,
that
right.
what I think is not seeming to go over.
What I'm,
I propose going with Charlie Quagliano's original scope of getting somebody that is qualified to repair it. If that is the route we want to go with, is to repair it, then yes. My opinion is that the roof is so far gone that it's not repairable and it's a danger. They've had to cut rebar off of it. Kids used to climb on it. I just think that this thing is unsafe where it is now. It's been so long, it's been 8 years since I've been on the commission that it's just been sitting there and deteriorating more and more every year.
And is the proposal that you're speaking of more than what's in the budget? Is that the?
I have no idea. No, I have no idea how much it would cost to
Yeah.
get an actual preservation person out there to do
Yeah.
it.
I am truly grateful that you brought that up because you're on this committee for different reasons than I am. I mean, you specifically applied to this committee because you have a passion for this sort of work, and as a council member, it's I'm not the expert here, and I've completely realized that. So thank you for bringing that up. Is it too late to? I mean, so if you could fill me in on the history. So I'm hearing you say that there was a decision.
There was a decision. Someone spoke in the audience, and
And
it went downhill.
Okay. So this body made a decision,
yes.
and it was what you just spoke
Our
of.
decision was to replace the roof. Joe Daniels was going to replace the roof, but then they saw that the columns were hanging. Maybe it's not safe enough. We stopped that, and then somebody said maybe we can save it still. So
So
I think
that's
we-
why we're at a stall.
yeah.
I think we stopped because of the damage that was done
So-
by Joe Daniels at the, while
No
they
one
were,
determined that Joe Daniels did any damage.
my personal opinion, after
Exactly.
being on site, is that they damaged the site,
But
which
there's-
caused the
there's-
damage that we see now.
I think it's
And at that
not
point,
okay
we
to just
ended
say
the
that.
contract with Joe Daniels because they were not going to be capable of doing this project, in my opinion.
I
And
just
so-
want to make sure I completely understand. I am assuming that this commission strongly wants to do all it can to save the pagoda, or is that a misunderstanding?
That is no longer being
Okay.
full
Well, I think-
commission intent.
Is there an option? I just feel like I'm going to get in trouble. Like, is there an option to just remove it and be done with it forever, or are we here for the purposes of saving it?
I think that the last vote was the purposes of saving it.
Okay.
I think I'm relatively new, so
Me too.
Qualiana, I wasn't part of that. The guy who said.
Qualiana was working with Kurt, so the proposal.
Let me just.
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah, I just want to say that Kurt was part of the original proposal.
Okay,
Okay.
but you mentioned, no one mentioned Strauss, they mentioned
Yeah.
Qualiana. I think it's his company. So Qualiana did a report, save it, this is how you can save it.
Well, he gave, yeah.
Yep, I'm going
Okay.
to paraphrase here. If somebody came along and said it's unsafe, and we all kind of believed it. to be
Somebody
honest.
else came along and said it
The
was unsafe.
Egan, who did the
guy.
RFP.
Okay?
Okay,
So now we're all under the impression that it's unsafe.
without
And
being
we're,
sure.
and we're talking about doing things like that you just mentioned, okay?
Okay,
And then Kurt Strauss, without Chuck, came along, did a report, and he's a reputable engineer, who said, no, you can save this thing, it's not unsafe. And so we've been getting mixed signals.
yeah,
And I think, I'm not going to speak for the whole commission, but I think our intent is if we could save it and in a financially responsible way, I think we'd all want to save it.
sure.
But somebody along the path said it's not safe, and that concerned us, right? With children and a new park
Right.
and so forth. I think that's a brief summary of what's
Okay.
going on, if that's helpful.
So it sounds like two consultants said it is safe, one consultant said it's not safe,
I think Joe Daniel said it wasn't safe either.
and we're,
And there was some movement that may have occurred during construction
got it.
that no
Of
one
the park.
confessed to
Yep,
or
okay.
admitted or, right?
Right, yeah. When
The whole earth
yeah.
moved over there.
But we've been
yes,
told, we've been
right.
told it's safe now, though, by an engineer in writing.
Right.
So,
Well,
I
one
mean,
wouldn't say it.
Rick, do you have any?
No, I think that's a
That's
good summary.
accurate? Okay.
Yeah, so I guess, does it come down to whether or not the commission feels we should try to save it?
Or not? Yeah.
I think we can't answer that until we know how much it's going to cost to try and save it.
Well-
That's my thought.
And I think we were kind of moving in that direction.
Yep.
So
Try.
we have a couple bids for what could be done to repair it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Estimates.
If we move towards, just estimates, if we
Yep.
move towards saving it versus not saving it, we've got a couple estimates, and they range from 30 to 60,000. But even those are not really the same thing as what Rebecca is talking about, like proper restoration, right? As opposed to just throwing on a modern day fix, right? Am I understanding that, Rebecca? Or,
I think only modern day fixes were offered.
Well, I think we're using
And
modern
potentially affordable.
materials.
modern day fixes may only be the affordable
May.
option? Okay.
Right. There are modern materials that can replicate historic fabric.
And I think
I don't think either of these two do that. Because definitely we
I
didn't
think
have
the two that we
carbon
were
fiber.
discussing, epoxy was the less expensive.
Yep.
And I don't think it was, I'll say it was, you're probably going to have to do something again in 30 years. kind of what I'm
Okay,
saying.
sure. It's
The
not
other
more
one,
durable,
the
yeah.
carbon fiber, I think, was trying to be a longer lasting solution, therefore it costs more.
Right.
But there are some aesthetic issues that Thor
Correct.
mentioned with that approach that we don't know if we're comfortable with. You know, I don't know.
You're good at summarizing. Very good. Okay.
Well, I think I would commend Thor's.
Yeah, the work that you've done is unbelievable, all the deep dive that you took into the pagoda.
That was very helpful.
It's helpful for me too.
So is this commission comfortable with, an affordable temporary fix that may need attention in another 30 years? As long as it's safe?
I'd hate for a future commission to have to go through all this again.
I would too. Wouldn't it be nice just to check this out and say?
Well, I mean, we're just talking about the roofs. I mean, the columns could deteriorate over time, and therefore, they could, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
To Rebecca's point,
Exactly.
rebar's hanging out. And
Kurt was fairly
the,
emphatic that the columns,
the supports underneath the columns, there was talk about those eroding, remember?
Everything's
You know.
eroding.
What's that?
Everything is eroding.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So-
think it was,
I don't think we could ever say that any solution we do would
yeah, there's no
not
building
be-
that isn't going to need
Correct.
ongoing
Yeah,
care.
right.
Correct.
So
So
I don't think we can make it maintenance free.
do
But
we?
with the monies we have, we should try to do the
So
best we can.
Thor, in a perfect world, what would you like to have happen right now? Are you looking for us to say, please research X as a possible solution? Is that kind of what?
I'm getting the sense the next step is we need real quotes, right? We have estimates from Kurt on his proposed scopes, but we don't really know how accurate those estimates are. So we need quotes, right, on that scope.
How do we
So
get quotes?
I think that's
I think that's where
Staff
the
for-
RFP came in.
right.
Do you have what you need to get quotes?
I can't say for certain. I think I have Kurt's recommendations, right?
Right.
I can pass those along to contractors, but they might say they need more information.
Might be able to ask one.
Yeah,
Like,
but
hey, just good enough for you to give us a ballpark cost, or
So-
a relatively close cost.
I'm getting a sense that the commission would maybe like me to use Kurt's estimates and his proposed scope, reach out to some contractors and come back with what's close to a quote, maybe.
I think you might look at CMR. I think you recommended CMR, didn't you?
Mhm.
Yeah, you might want to look at CMR because they do restoration.
At the same time, though, we may want to ask Kurt what it would cost to give us a design of,
Well, he designed, or no, Patrick Egan designed it. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
because there's going to be two costs, I think, right?
We need a quote for design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we need somebody to give us a construction estimate based on either his words, his description, if they can give us that, or we got to wait for a design. Does that make sense?
I think we could travel all those paths.
At the end of the day, what is the ultimate goal? Are we aiming to have a structure at Stonebridge Park that will withstand children climbing on it? I mean, will there be a preventive, a fence?
No.
Is there an issue with liability or insurance? I mean, what is the,
No more so than right now.
okay, so we're just, so at the end of the day, we're wanting, this body is wanting to repair the pagoda, but we know that there's always going to be danger of people climbing on it. I mean, I guess I just,
I don't think it's easy now, actually, because they regraded.
yeah,
So
okay.
I think
I
they
don't think
pulled
that's as
back.
much of a problem.
Yeah, they pulled back that retaining wall.
Okay, so take back what I just said. Back to what Thor was just saying. You've got what you need based on what John was also recommending.
I guess if the commission could clarify exactly what your request of staff is,
Okay,
that would be my preference.
John, would you step in? So you're saying Kurt Strauss is the name I keep hearing. Of the names that we've talked about tonight, it sounds like we're going back to Strauss.
I think we're going to need a design. And then we want somebody to build the design, right, or repair. And we want this to be within our budget, I think. So, I mean, we could contact Kurt if we're allowed to and say, hey, Kurt, how much does it cost to design what you just did? And he'll say, I don't know, $5,000. And then we could wait until that's done and then put it out, or put it to 2 or 3 contractors, whatever, that specialize in this kind of work or have experience in this kind of work, and then get an estimate from them, right?
Sure.
That seems to be the logical approach. You could try and ask them to give you an estimate based on his description, but I still think we're going to need a design in the end. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Does that make
so-
sense?
Designing a solution,
So
you
get
mean?
in-
Like, this is exactly what the solution's going to look like when you say design?
So someone can design it and then someone can build it.
Yeah.
Right now we have a description, we don't have drawings. Someone could give you an estimate on the description, but I still think they're going to need the drawings to actually
Eventually,
do the work.
okay.
Yeah, that's what
Got
I'm
it.
saying.
Got it.
So I think it would be best to get Kurt to finish the design of the 2 options. And then once we have that done, put that out to, I don't know how many contractors you have to put out, to 3 contractors that have experience or specialize in that kind of work. Does that make sense? Is that
So-
clear?
Start with, get an estimate from Kurt of how much it would cost
Yes.
for the designs, come back to the commission, and we will discuss whether we want to move forward with potential designs.
Correct.
Or can we just move forward with the design?
I mean, are we allowed to do that? I guess is the question I would ask.
But
It probably depends on the cost.
I guess it makes sense to ask, okay. I just,
He can turn that
trying
on
to
pretty
move it
quickly.
along.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, so
we
first
could have
we
that for the
ask,
next meeting, I would assume,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
so we'll get a bid on a design,
and a schedule, how long he's going to take.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, all right. You know what I think I'm going to propose is that with the time being, I'm going to go to 6B and C, and then maybe we move really quickly on the next items. So we've just finished 6A, 6B, National Historic Preservation Month planning. And this is the, we talked about the webpage, we talked about having that in place. There's also the Frostwoods educational event, but that's different, I guess. That's in February and March.
Mhm.
What have we got on the docket for Historic Preservation Month here? We've got our, gotta pull that up, the work plan, sorry. Keeping all my documents together here. There we go. Let's see here. We were talking about cleaning landmarkers as part of Historic Preservation Month.
Yeah, but we're putting that off.
We're putting that off. So is there anything on the docket for Historic Preservation Month?
The webpage for
Mhm.
National Register properties,
Yep.
and then web pages for international homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll work with the library to make sure there's some kind of display for the books that we purchased last year using the CLG funds.
Did you ever get a list?
Yeah, we were supposed to get a list.
Okay, I will get you a list.
Maybe it was Doug that said he was going to.
Yeah, I'll get a list from Doug.
That'd be great.
So just, and I apologize for any confusion at the beginning of the meeting, but when we talk about a plan, so for example, Historic Preservation Month planning, what that tells me is that that is a project. It is assigned to someone. It has half a dozen tasks that are going to be accomplished as part of Historic Preservation Month, and we have a completely separate list. It's not, I mean, it's with more detail. Is that just not the way that this committee works generally?
Well,
We typically never had a work plan.
you brought the
Okay.
work.
Okay.
We should perhaps rename the work plan. That might-
Let's
Okay.
just say scope.
Yeah. So,
Or
but right.
design- or goals.
So what I'm thinking
Sure.
is like right now, a few ideas were tossed out, but I'm not sure that we're gonna remember what they were, and nobody's being assigned to them, and now nothing's gonna get done. So I don't wanna push you guys if that's not the way this committee works. I'm just feeling a little unsure. I don't know. Yeah, I'll run y'all out. So everybody will say, "That's it. I'm out of here. I don't want Rademacher to be around." Okay, so for Historic Preservation Month, I heard 2 web pages, a display at the library, probably some PSAs. I'd like to me, that's coming up in May, and that seems to be like something that is actually like an actionable item. So we've got the educational events, they're under control. They're happening in February and March. Then we've got Historic Preservation Month. How about this? How about if I propose, I'll put together a little project plan for Historic Preservation Month. It'll have your websites, and we'll get some PSAs, and it won't be very long, but it'll just be something that we can update and keep track of and make sure that it gets done. Okay. And then for the staff updates, I don't think there's much to say about the Frostwoods educational event, but I don't want to make an assumption. You probably have something that...
Yes. So I shared the details with the commission, at least the dates. It'll be here in this room on February 22nd and March 22nd. They will be streamed and recorded. And I'm working with the WH staff right now on some presentations. They're preparing them. I'll they'll share with me once they're done. I was thinking the commission might want to use some of their funds to maybe, just have like snacks and water available for guests to make it more of a informational event in that way. And Rebecca and Brenda with Frostwoods Homeowners Association are doing the promotion on their end. They are sending out mailers, and those are my updates.
So between Brenda and Rebecca, the two of you've got everything under control, is that what I'm hearing?
No, we just sent out and notified our neighbors. That's it.
Is there a list of everything that's already been done and everything that needs to be done and what the progress is on all the things? Is there like a plan for?
There is not a work plan for the Frostwoods event.
Okay. What do you expect me to, what is the expectation that, who is doing what? And I'm not asking this of you, Thor. I'm not saying, I'm just saying like, I feel like Brenda and Rebecca have been most
No,
involved.
we just notified our neighbors.
Okay. All right. Could we ask Rebecca, would you be willing to put together a list of what you think should be done in order to make this happen?
I don't think there is. I mean, Thor's already doing it.
Okay, so you've got a list of what's already being done for this?
So I'm doing the logistics. I have
Okay.
a meeting secured. I have, the event details, the presentation. That's being handled by me, and I'll post it on the city webpage. And then Frostwoods is doing their own promotion within.
We sent out a mailer. We put it on our Facebook page.
Okay.
Who's
So-
going to MC the event?
Usually it's the Historical Society. Well, that's,
Who?
we didn't, you weren't here. The last time we held one, the Charlie Rose, what's his name? Charlie. From the Historical Society?
Oh, Joe DeRose.
Joe Rose, thank you.
Oh,
I'm
the
sorry.
State Historical
Charlie's name was in my head.
Oh,
Joe DeRose.
Okay,
Did it.
so some staffer is going to chair the meeting. Okay.
I think that's correct. Has that person been notified?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
They've done this before. They do
Just wanna
it
make
for
sure.
lots of organizations and municipalities.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then the question you brought up about the refreshments, is that something that you're asking folks to help with, or what is the question?
I can handle that.
Okay.
The question is if the commission wants to use funds to do that.
Got it. Do we have any examples to follow? Have we done these sorts of things
We've
before?
done this before without.
Without? Okay.
Without, yeah.
So any objections to without, no snacks? Any objections or any strong opinions one way or the other?
The only thing I would add is that someone from the city should be there to answer.
I'll be there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Anything more to say about the two events? I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be
Have you
really
heard from
interesting.
people what their interest
We
is?
just notify the neighbors, that's it.
Okay. There was no
There's no
discussion.
RSVP or anything like that.
Okay.
So,
Was there a meeting of the group?
no.
Because I thought there was some kind
We have an annual meeting in April. That's why we are holding this event before the April meeting.
Okay. So
Okay.
your mailing list goes to everyone in
Yes.
the Frostwoods neighborhood?
Yes.
And you sent like a postcard or something?
We sent a letter and a postcard.
Could we see what it was?
I think you have a copy of it.
Yeah, I can share that with the group.
Just so we know what people were told.
Okay.
A letter and a postcard? So we
Yes, because we have other things going too.
So, but in terms of the National Register meeting,
Yes, we sent a letter.
both of
And-
those
Yeah,
had information about it?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for doing that. Okay. Draft landmark map in the packet. I think it looks really beautiful.
Did you make that, Thor?
I did not. We hired consultants at UW Milwaukee
Okay.
to do this, do the CLG funds.
Yeah, we have money left over, right?
Yeah, it looks great. And I know that we've looked at this before, perhaps twice already before.
Yeah, so this incorporates commission feedback. The State Historical Society also took a look and offered feedback. So this is, 90% complete, I would say. The consultants are open to any final comments and final changes.
What might not be complete? At this point, it's been reviewed twice by this body, once by, you've just mentioned Historical Society review. I mean, I guess, are we just scanning it for obvious typos or things that just wouldn't? The one thing that comes to mind, Thor, is on the first page where we have the brown-colored circles, the one to the left of the Monona Mound. Could you explain why there's no number inside that circle?
Just the property owner doesn't want their address listed.
Oh, it's the owner.
Okay.
It says address restricted.
So that's what it means when it says address restricted. Okay, got it.
Interesting.
So you'll notice it's also, that dot is not on the map, right?
Got it.
We don't know
Okay.
where it is. No. Maybe some of us know. where it is.
But the Rindell house is,
Right, it's at
the
the
same-
Rindell House, in case you want to know.
which is gone. The Rindell house is gone.
Right.
And the
Alright.
marker for it is gone too.
Yes.
We still
So
have
I-
it, though.
Yeah.
I'd almost take that out, but I don't know if we've got time for that.
Yeah, let's leave it, yeah. So that was the only point that I brought that I thought I had a question about. If no one else has a question, I would think that it would be fair to move that we can approve this.
I found it
Sorry.
interesting that landmarks were listed that are no longer there. And I guess I can try and understand why. I'm guessing that's protocol for things like this, but I just thought that was strange.
Yeah.
It is, but I think that's an artifact of how the commission used to work,
Okay.
where they would do the site of. And it's
that is a
not
good
typically
point.
what you use the landmark ordinance to do.
Okay.
It's more of a historical society idea of putting a marker up for something that used to be there.
My only question about the Monona Mound is we have it marked, right?
What do you mean?
Don't we have a boulder there?
No, yeah.
Yep.
So why do we have to restrict where it's located if we have a boulder on,
Because the owner asked for
but it's
that.
the right-of-way that the boulder's in, isn't it?
I think it might be on an easement.
I thought we needed the owner's permission to put that marker on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like their driveway's so
Wide.
weird and.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's in.
But we
Brother or
actually
not.
have a marker, so I'm curious
Yeah.
as to why we can't
Put it on the map, yeah.
locate that dot.
Sure. I can double check with the consultants. I was not part of the conversations for that.
Okay.
And as this was drafted, but I will double check and see the reasoning there.
You don't have to put a number on it, just put the dot on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, and
If you're going to put the
I-
dot on
yeah.
the map, you might as well put the number in it.
That does seem sort of, so if I understand correctly, so the owner near the property of the Monona Mound said that they do not want,
Well, he owns the property the mound is located on.
okay,
We do have it marked though with a boulder.
right.
So it
There's a
does
physical
kinda-
marker right there, yeah. But he just doesn't want to be part of this map.
He doesn't have to have his address on there, but if,
That's a good point.
you could
Yeah,
say
I'll-
it's general locale, I suppose.
I would vote, put a number on it, wouldn't there be a number? Put the number on the map, but just don't put the address on it. Just say the words address restricted.
Yeah, yeah.
But still put a number inside the brown circle and still put that numbered circle on the map. Because Rebecca brings up a really good point. There's a physical marker right there. but
Right, you
it's
could
the
walk on the
point.
sidewalk and
Yeah,
stand and
it's
look
right
at it.
there.
I don't know.
At the same time, if we make corrections at this point, every correction is costing us more money? Is that what I'm?
No.
No? Okay.
I don't believe so.
I don't I don't know the details of the contract, if we're
Okay.
paying hourly, or if it was a one-time fee.
So Thor, that's the only thing I noticed, but if others have things they notice, we can take that now. Otherwise, if no one else, no? Yeah,
Is
I-
Outer Schroeder, is that a farm? I thought it was the house.
Otto
Right.
Schromer
Outer Schroeder.
Farm. Okay,
Schrader, it's-
Schrader, yeah.
Number
Yes.
9, that was the house we nominated.
his house.
Yeah,
Listed.
so that was just listed as the Otto Schrader house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's state listed, just not national yet.
Right.
And I think it has been formally listed, so it's not in progress anymore.
Well, it's state listed. I think the national is still in progress.
Mm-hmm, correct.
Do we know that, Thor?
From the last meeting, that was the
Oh, was that the case?
status.
Okay.
It's the status on the historical
hmm
site.
And this brochure will have a date, right? So people can always say, well, as of this date, that was the status of it.
Yeah, I just
We
a
don't
good idea.
have to, you know,
should take that off, though.
you would like to see a change, right? What
Yeah,
is
I
it?
just, National Register listing in progress, it's eventuality that they will be listed.
Maybe in their little
Yeah, okay, in the
blip down
footnotes.
there.
So Rick, you're suggesting that we move one of these properties from, we designate it as a national?
Well, there has an asterisk if a National Register listing is in
progress.
progress.
Okay.
And I just don't think that's necessary.
So you're
Right,
saying
'cause
remove the asterisk?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And Otto Schroeder should be house instead of farm.
So Otto Schromer Farm, change that to house,
Yep.
remove the asterisk.
And the line National Register listing in progress.
But there's also an asterisk on bungalow. Oh, that's a plus
I would-
sign, I'm sorry. And
No,
where
no,
the-
it's an
Schrader,
asterisk.
He's saying
That's a-
remove farm.
actually,
I
that's
would
a-
get the actual title from the National Register.
Yeah, I think it's the Otto and Louise Schrader Farm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
And Louise,
I would
yeah.
make sure those titles match. And Bungalowan, I don't know if that's the official name of that
Oh,
either.
yeah.
That's a nickname.
I think it was the Owen house.
So
Mhm. Okay.
Theo and somebody, Owen.
Okay, so in column 1, I'm seeing 2 changes on number 9, the name and the asterisk. In column number 2, I'm seeing Bungalowan name change, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Was there, and also in column 2, we were going to deal with the Monona Mound, putting a number on it and putting the number on the map, just leaving the phrase address restricted in place.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any change on column 3?
Just that asterisk where it says National Register listing in progress.
That's right, because we no longer need that because there was only one on number 9 on the Otto Schroeder.
Well, I think
Schrader, okay.
Bungalowan was also.
So but the bungalow is a plus sign, not an
That's because,
asterisk.
yeah.
My eyes tell me it
Yeah.
does say plus.
Yeah, so we no longer need the
Oh,
legend
okay.
in the
Right.
lower right
The
corner.
Schrader House is also a Monona landmark, so that should have a plus sign.
Okay, so we changed the Schrader House from a asterisk to a plus sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you getting all this, Thor?
I'm getting it, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Boy, you're-
Yeah.
Now, was there anything on the other side of the handout, the other
Oh,
side
God,
of the
there's
flyer?
another side.
I think it looks fantastic.
Did you suggest adding a date, though?
Yeah.
A date,
I think that's
so
a
that
great idea.
people
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
know that as of this date.
Should it be like
To a
spring
year. Yeah.
year, or just
Yeah.
a year, or a
Spring
month and a year?
2023 or 2023, or you just summer 2023, or whatever you think it is, yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
What did you say you just want to get rid of in the legend, or the key, rid of the asterisk,
the
National
asterisk.
Register listing in progress? That's just not a designation.
You don't even need it anymore.
Okay.
Right.
Right, yeah. Now, on the other side of the pamphlets, now, there's the first column, the bottom last phrase talks about bungalowing, but it does have it in quotation marks, so I think that's okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
it should be saying
Yeah.
Ryan Theo Owen.
Yep. Would you like the nickname up here if it was the Owen House?
I think we wanted it to be Owen House,
Okay.
right?
Whatever it says in the National
Unless you
Register
put it
notation.
in, yeah.
Because if you're gonna have it that it's the National Register, people will look for that.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's the Otto Schrader house in the picture. Right?
The big picture?
Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful.
It's a nice photo.
So, also in that paragraph, as of January,
Mhm.
you have those two, but then the Schrader House, what just passed in May? No, I'm sorry. What month was that? That just passed.
October, was it?
Yeah, so we might want to put,
So to add the Schrader House.
so you should add it, add the Schrader House to that part.
Okay, but the Schrader House is
It's
the listing is in progress. It's on the state register, but not the national
How
register.
confident
But it's most
are we-
likely to move to.
I was just going to say, how confident are we
100%.
that, 100% confident?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't know how these things work, but
And then we can change January to whatever month they print this.
Mm-hmm.
Or Xerox it.
that's a really good point. So that little portion, that 1-4 line, that has a lot of changes, so change,
We'll be able to hand this out at the National Register meeting.
yes, so let's have this ready before that, yeah.
And I don't know if it needs
Is there
anything more than a
anything
Xerox.
else to say about this draft, this landmark map? It's a really nice publication.
Just to cover our base, could we say something like those 3 properties have been listed in the National Register of Historic Places or are currently being reviewed?
I think that complicates things. And for all intents and purposes, it will be listed.
Yeah, I'd just say
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And then you can change that month to the month
From,
we actually
from
print.
January to something
Because by
else.
the time we actually
Mhm.
print it, it will probably be listed.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good, very good. Okay, and then the last thing on the agenda that we can talk about tonight is just number 6, C2, update/discussion on the pagoda and the Frank Allen House. I don't think we really need to talk more about the pagoda, but really, Rebecca, I would love to hear from you about the
I've already
house.
told Tor I'm not here to update
Oh.
on the house.
Okay.
The steering committee is for the whole property, and I don't feel comfortable talking
Okay.
about that.
Is it, should we even have it on the agenda?
I
Would
would
you
choose
prefer
not
that
to,
we-
but it's
okay.
not my choice. It's everyone's choice, so.
Well,
Do we
there
remember
should
why
be
it was, do we remember why it was put on the agenda?
I
think
requested
You
it.
requested it, that's,
It's a landmark, and
yep.
I felt like
Is
some level of communication would be helpful.
Is it, I remember it now that, yes, okay. So, how would you like this communication to happen?
I could report on it because I've been going to all the meetings.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Do you have a report tonight?
What's that?
Do you have anything to share tonight?
Just that I think the next meeting is coming up on the 21st,
Okay.
and at that meeting, they will look at 3 scenarios, one with the Frank Alice house, one with something new, and something without any building. And I think, I'm not sure what to expect once they see those 3 different scenarios. I think the steering committee kind of went through one by one and said, here are our guardrails, here are the one things that we don't want to see or do want to see, mostly don't want to see. So I'm not quite sure what to expect. I don't know if there was a lot more to go on, but I think that's going to be just those 3 scenarios on February 21st.
February 21st, open to the public
Mm-hmm.
at the
I
location,
think it might be here, but I'm not sure.
is this,
I'm not sure either.
that's a big deal and it's coming up quickly. Is it advertised on,
We meet every month. It is on the calendar, on the city calendar.
wonderful,
It is recorded. It is You can look at the minutes, you can,
So those three scenarios will be presented, they won't be voted on, right?
No.
No.
Sure,
Yeah.
right?
I
Correct?
think
no,
it's the
there'll be a
consult-
public meeting after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
It's exciting. Very
this
exciting.
process goes through December,
Yeah.
so there's no decisions on anything.
And I know you've worked very
I don't
hard
even wanna,
on this, so, yeah. You don't have to give a report. Thank you very much, Rick, that was insightful.
The only update I would add is that the city completed their archaeological survey of the property, and no evidence of mounds were found. So I thought the commission should know that, considering the discussion of mounds related to the land acknowledgement, and also the fact that mounds are landmarks, other mounds are landmarks in the city.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
I think the report even said the site was pretty well disturbed, so there's not likely to be any kind of archaeological resources eligible for the National Register.
So does that mean like I think there are fences or signs, those all come down and
Yes. Correct.
people will mow it?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion.
Gleefully. Is there a
Second
second? Rick seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for everyone's patience. We'll be meeting next in March.
Do you want me to
Do we have an
just-
open motion or no?
Oh, what?
Did we ever close the first one?
We never really close it.
Do we have
and
to or not? I'm okay with that.
I'm okay not. I mean, I